Hello, I'm with a really amazing guest today. Her name is Dr. Celia, and I am so excited to have this conversation because when she shared her idea for this podcast being called the invisible time, I was like, please tell me more. I'm leaning right in and I need to know how to get some of that, especially in the crazy season. Like as we're recording this, it's mid-November. We're about to get into the holidays. Madness is happening. We're having extra activities with kids and special days at school that we're forgetting about already and all of this stuff. And I just want to like dive right into all of this and how you have become the coach for moms about productivity and your background as a psychiatrist. So, welcome to Entrepreneur School.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Let's like tell us a little bit about your journey first, from where you came from to where like what you're doing now and how parenting has played a role in the way that you're showing up for your what you want to do for your business.
In my previous career, I was a psychiatrist and I used to practice in like an outpatient setting, but it was just like pretty intensive. Like I had a lot of like high acuity patients and everything. And I noticed over time I was burning out. So I was seeking help for it. And I reached out to a physician burnout coach who was like the best thing ever. Like, I never thought I would like love my previous job, but then like with her coaching and everything, I realized like what I had wasn't so bad, but being exposed to the coaching world just like opened my eyes to like what else is out there. So I had it in my mind to maybe also become a coach, but I was also there was a lot of transitions happening then. I left my job, just became pregnant. Months later, I was close to birth and I gave birth, and a couple of months later had started my business at the same time. So yeah,
That is
I
wild.
was like, but the thing is, like, I was like, I just like shake my head at like what I thought, like the thoughts I had back then, because I was like, oh, it's a newborn baby. It's going to be easy. They just sleep and eat all the time. I could do this. And then when I had my son, I'm like, oh my God, why didn't anyone tell me this? It's going to be so hard, Like they don't sleep for hours on end. It's not like an easy, And I was just like totally unprepared. And yeah, I was like a hot mess and like trying to launch a business and motherhood at the same time. I would not, if you could do it, great, but I would not recommend doing both at the same time because it's a lot.
Oh my gosh. Every mom is like, yeah, I know. Like they tell you that these things don't come with like a warning label, but also when you get into it, you realize you don't even know what you didn't know. And
Right.
wow. And you're just like, oh yeah, I'll have a baby and launch a business. No big deal.
Right. I thought like the instincts will kick in of like motherhood and like, I did all the prep for the delivery because that's what they tell you to prep on, but not the aftermath. So yeah, that was definitely a hard lesson to learn. So I was trying to like figure out how to incorporate like time management productivity with my business and a newborn. And I did what like anyone else would do, just like go on Google and Google it. And all the advice that came up was just so generic, like time block or do the Pomodoro method or like just spend more time on one task. And I'm like, those are great and everything. But like when I'm exhausted and tired and like I don't have the energy, like I can't do this. Like I can't be like, all right, 1 to 4, I'm gonna block out time to work on my business when my baby might wake up and he's hungry, Or like I just came off of like not sleeping through the night and then I'm working on my business. So I was trying to think of a way to figure out like how can I make this work. And I was just like kind of like flashing back to what I used to do, where I used to work in like the ER, the inpatient, outpatient, sometimes like all at once during like a 24-hour shift. And during that time, like you're constantly bombarded with like different things you need to do. Like someone might page you, someone might send a phone call, you have to go to this floor to get labs, you might have to do an assessment, like all of it. And it's always like continuous. So I learned really quick how to triage and prioritize just in like that setting. So I took what I learned there and tried to incorporate it to where I was with my business and mom life. And over time, I developed a system which helped me figure out like the best way for me to like to do time management productivity without burning out or being stretched thin and still getting stuff done, but getting it done in a realistic time as a new mom and a business owner.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I want to know everything about that. Absolutely. First of all, though, like as a kind of contextualization point, there's I feel like there's this concept of like we just need to get more done and everybody wants to feel like productivity equals getting more done. What's your take on that?
My take on that is not getting more done, it's getting what you need in your business that will move the needle forward done. And that could not, and that doesn't mean like more time does not equal more results. How you use your time is what equals results. And I think we also underestimate that, like, it's also like sometimes short amount of time is just enough as like having blocks of time. Like take the analogy, like, just say you're moving from like a small condo to a house and you bring all your stuff from a condo to a house and it's like, it looks spacious, it looks great and everything, and over time you start filling it and then that space gets filled. And same with like just like going from a house to a condo, like you have so much stuff you bring in a condo, it's so cram packed and everything. It's like sometimes when we have a lot of time we just fill it with stuff that doesn't move the needle forward or stuff that just fills it up. And whereas like you really needed like maybe like one fourth that time to get what you need to get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always surprised when I challenge myself to be like, hey, well, I have 60 minutes to do this task, or I know I could also spend probably 4 hours doing the same task.
Right.
And would the results even be different? Probably not, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, yes. And also I think it takes into account like how you want to approach the time as well. Like, because I think it's easily to get into like, I don't have enough time. I need to do more. I need to make the most with the like limited time that I have. But how do you actually want to make the most of the time? Like sometimes it's just even getting into like the mindset of it too. Like take for example, like a couple of weeks ago, my son and I, like we've been trying to get him to eat more and he's not having it, and telling a toddler to eat more, it's like all my training as a psychiatrist in that moment did not, nothing worked. So like internally I was just feeling frustrated and upset and worried for him and everything. And then during his nap time, I carried that over into work and I realized that's affecting my work more than me actually sitting down and do the work, because what's happening throughout your day, it's not like we could sometimes just like close the door and move on to the next thing. Sometimes it carries with us, especially
Right.
as moms, especially when it's our child too. So sometimes just even taking the time to like get yourself like working through how you're feeling, the mindset of it, and then taking a deep breath and then going into your business. Sometimes that might take away from the implementation, like the strategy part, but in the long run, it gives you so much back in your well being as well.
I'm so glad that you brought that up actually, because I feel like for me too, and I've had a business for 7 years and my kids have been different ages throughout. So in terms of like what my childcare situation looked like, I had different amounts of time to deal with throughout all of these years in my business. But I find that transition period is the hardest, right? Like the 30 minutes before I know right now my kids walk home by themselves, like the 30 minutes before I know they're coming through the door and they're going to interrupt me like imminently, my brain starts like switching over to that. And like I find it so hard to switch back and forth between parent mode, mom mode, business mode, whatever else, right? And so
Right.
it's taken a lot of time to even start to be able to identify that that is a block and that needs to be dealt with. Like I need to stop what I'm doing and go like meditate or stretch or have a walk or something instead of just trying to like, I only have 30 minutes, I better like get this email out.
Yes. Because, like, there's this concept called context switching, which as moms, we're doing just so much more all the time. But it takes so much mental energy and even physical energy to switch from one task to another. Because we're not really meant to just go from, like, like folding the laundry to answering a call to going back to business to attending like something that's like coming up, like when you're constantly switching, you're constantly like refocusing, reshifting your brain to something else. And that actually drains you. And by the end of the day, that actually adds to why we're so exhausted, why we're so fatigued, because we're constantly being pulled in so many directions, internally and externally. So even just having a little bit buffer, a little bit block, like your kids are going to come home in 30 minutes, like you know that's coming, but even just like, all right, they're going to come home in 30 minutes. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to give myself a moment to breathe, moment myself to just like take a deep breath, relax a little bit, kind of like switch into mom mode, but in a slower manner, not just like that instant switch. And then you might like notice that, all right, I'm not taking so much energy to switch suddenly to the new thing that we're doing, but I'm taking time to ease into it and not put in so much energy. So I'm feeling better about it.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
absolutely. 100%. I have found in my own practice of that too. Like, I would have to go upstairs. I have to leave my office and go upstairs and like be in the kitchen to receive my children home instead of them coming into my office where I'm like halfway through a sentence typing something,
Right.
and to avoid the like frustration and resentment that that creates too. So, okay, I love that we're playing out this sort of example, but maybe you could share a little bit back to your sort of triaging framework around how to make these choices, because I'm sure that it's different for everybody.
So the way, in terms of triaging, I think it depends on like what's being presented to you. Like there's going to be some days that you have time to work in your business and the long breaks and get into the groove and you're okay with it. But then there's times when like you had planned for a week that you're going to work in your business and your kiddos are sick and they call you from school like, hey, you need to pick up your son and daughter, please. And then your whole week is kind of derailed because you're on mom mode. So coming into terms of like, all right, I'm going to be in mom mode instead of like working my business. What seems feasible for me? What seems doable? Like I need to take care of my kids. That's like number one priority. But are there small pockets of time I could do something small to move the needle forward my business? Or is there like client urgent work for like, is there urgent work for my client that I need to do that maybe I could break it up further along the week that I can do? Or even just like playing around with your schedule. Like they might be taking long naps because they have a fever and they're just too tired. So can you do a little bit there? Or even just like taking permission, like, you know what? This is going to be one of those weeks where I'm not ready to do business. I can't do it. I'm just going to be there for my family and pick up when I need to and when I'm ready to do so. Because sometimes we don't give ourselves that permission. There's always that tug of war. Like you're with your kids, you should be working on your business. You're with your business, you should be working on your kids, you know? So sometimes just giving permission, like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on my son and daughter and I'll deal with the business. I'll get what needs to get done this week, but the rest I'll just wait till next week because my business is not gonna fall apart in a week, you know? It's here for
Yeah,
the long run.
true. That's true. But yet we have a hard time believing that statement, right?
Yes.
You're hitting on so many important points around like that battle that we have between being pulled one way or another and never feeling like enough in either arena, right?
Yes.
And so do you have any like, hey, I'm the person who's always like, I should be doing my business, and I'm like, kids, that like it's so hard to like pull that in as a priority and feel like it is as valuable of a thing for me to be doing as business stuff is, right?
Right.
So do you have any tips around like shifting that mindset about giving yourself that permission?
From like business to momhood or momhood to business or
Like allowing yourself to so let's go with the your kid's sick and your whole week is wrecked situation,
okay.
because that happens and it's flu season and it's about to happen.
Right, right, right. I think just like shifting into like, all right, I'm going to take a deep breath. This is not what I planned, but you know what? This is a great exercise for me to practice because this is not the last time this is going to happen. This is probably going to happen probably until they're like much, much older, you know, because at some point they'll always need their mom in some way or some form. So, you know what? I'm going to take a list of what I had planned for this week. What has to stay on my schedule? What does not have to stay on my schedule? What is The things that need to stay in my schedule, can I break that up in like the periods of time that I have? And just internally being like, you know what, even if I don't get to all of it, it's okay. It's okay. I Mom life and business life, it's a season. Like this is the season that I'm in. This is not what I would love to happen, but this is what's happening right now. And just even I think sometimes just even giving that internal like grace to ourselves, like because as moms, like we tend to beat ourselves up so much or like take things like to heart, like I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I really wish I did this.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes just giving that grace to yourself, like, look, like I call myself Cell, like, look, Cell, you're not going to be able to work on this. Your son, Logan, is sick. He needs you. And the only thing you can work on is what you promised this client. So, you know what? I'm going to just focus on that. I have a list of what I need to do this week. When he gets better, or if I'm able to in the pockets of time, I'm going to just try to do the best I can. But I, I need this breathing space for myself because I'm worried about him. And that takes away from me being fully focused on the business too, you know? I think it's kind of like taking the whole scenario, like when we triage, we take in all the entire scenario, all the inputs, and then we try to prioritize like what's more urgent, what takes the most energy, what's needed now, and what can be done a little bit later or next week or pushed to later. Or when there's a little bit breathing room, when there's like less like pages or calls and whatnot, all right, when can I start tackling the semi urgent or semi important stuff to do? And
Mm-hmm.
also taking a lot of deep breaths and giving grace and a lot of reframe because our brain is like, we kind of have like the prefrontal cortex, which is like the mature, like reasonable part of us. And then we have like our amygdala, which is kind of like the toddler brain in a sense, who loves to throw tantrums. And it's like, you're not doing enough, you're not doing this, why aren't you doing this? And so we have to kind of also like redirect and like kind of bring it back to the grace of permission, like the rational part, like, you know what, I'm in the middle of two kids being sick, I am tired myself, there's a good chance I might get sick too, you know. So let's just take it today and let's see what I can do with my kiddos. And if I feel like working on business and if I can do it, I will do so. If not, totally okay, you know?
Oh, I feel lighter just hearing you say that actually. Like
Thank
it
you.
it is it's so true that there's so many other factors at play beyond the to-do list, right? Like there's your emotional well-being, there's your uh physical health and the potential for your physical health to run down really quickly by being exhausted or actually getting sick or as a result of trying to power through. Both of those things could happen anyways, right? It's
Yes.
kind of always on the table.
Yes. And like as moms, like I don't think we give ourselves credit like how much we're running. Like we're taking care of our kids, we're running a business, running a household, our partners need like we're doing so much, you know? But when you kind of do it day by day, we forget how awesome that is in a sense. Like if I was to look at myself younger and look at what I'm doing now, I'd be like, I don't even know how I'm doing it, you know?
Ugh,
So
you know what? Like I'm having a moment. I've been going to therapy for quite some time for various reasons, typically mostly centered on having lost my mom several years ago and like kind of going through my grief journey in that. And one time when I went to a new therapist and I started sharing a little bit just about like feeling this anxiety, and when she said like you're overwhelmed, and I hadn't even thought of, like it didn't even occur to me that all of the stuff that I was doing was just a lot, right? So I
yes.
think that's what you're saying, right? We're just running without even knowing that we're carrying so much more than we should be carrying or need to be carrying. And we're just thinking we should be like, I don't know who we are comparing ourselves to, but we're just super moms. It's nuts.
Yes. And you hit the nail on the head. Like we are overwhelmed. Like we are carrying a lot. And it's not like we were, in a sense, prepared for this. It's not like there came a manual after your kids were born. Hey, this is all the things that's going to happen. This is how you prepare for it. You know, it's kind of like a lot of learn on the fly type thing. And every kid is different. Every need is different. We change as parents too, you know, and we change as business owners. So like we're doing a lot. And I think with the overwhelm, like just even going back to like, you know what? I have so much on my plate, just even like simplifying what you can. And even mentally, like, you know what? I can only handle one thing at this moment. That's all I'm going to be doing. Like when my son was sick, like I had like a ton of things to do. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to work on getting this for my client. And that's it. Everything else, I cannot handle it right now. I am going to break down. I'm exhausted. I'm trying hard not to fall sick myself because once he gets sick, I'm sick for like a month. So it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's just like, even like knowing myself, like this is my limit and taking care of my physical health too. So I'm able to be there for him and myself and my business as well. Because so I don't, we don't really take into account how much stress affects us, like what it really does to the body, like emotionally, physically, mentally. And it does take a toll. It does over time really like affect how we function. So just even the little times and graces or the little times of just like taking a deep breath, going for a walk, doing something you enjoy, like listening to like songs you love, that perk you up, like anything. That little moment helps just decrease the stress and decrease that like endless cycle of like, all right, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm irritable, I'm anxious, I'm taking it out on my kids. Now I feel worse. Now it's happening again. And then the day just spirals downward. And before you know, you're like in bed crying and like wondering like how did this day even happen?
Yeah. I'm like, that was like last week for me.
That was literally like my week ago too.
In bed crying. How did this even?
Or like telling my husband
Oh,
like I'm like such a horrible mom, like why can't I get this together?
oh my gosh. Everybody listening to this is like relating so hard right now. It's not funny, but it's funny.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath right now.
We'll
It's like
get
heavy
through it.
stuff.
Yeah, right. It's that acknowledgement, and I think that you're pointing out that we have to become really in tune with ourselves to know our own limits and to create our own boundaries so that we don't put because we're the only ones in charge, right? Nobody's making us do any of the things that we're doing. Like we feel like we're being made to by whatever societal pressures or this belief we have to post on social media every day to make our businesses work or whatever
Right.
it is, right? But none of that is really real.
Right. And it takes a lot to like undo the societal and conditional things we've been taught. Like with time, like from the very beginning, we're always taught we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time to do this. We need to do this. We're so busy. I can't do this. And that's what we bring into adulthood. And that's what we kind of bring into our businesses too. And then like if like you think about it, like, is it true? Like, do we really don't have enough time? Like maybe we have just enough time to do what we need to do, and that's fine. Maybe we don't need to do everything. Maybe we just need a day to ourselves. Like when I like hung out with a friend, that was like the best thing ever in like the last month because I'm like, I'm having an adult conversation with someone and I'm taking time for myself. I'm not like working my business, take care of my little one. Just like
Mm-hmm.
small little things or just something that replenishes us because like if mom burns out, like it all burns out around us.
Mm-hmm.
And like
100%. And so I just wanted to like kind of tie this back together with what we were talking about in terms of like your topic idea and this concept of invisible time. Like, how do you actually define that? And maybe we've kind of touched on it, but if we could kind of summarize what that
yeah.
really means.
So invisible time is the time that you have throughout the day that you don't really consider business time, but can be used for business time or personal time. It could be when you're dropping your kids off for school or picking them up. It could be like a small amount of time you have before they wake up. It could be just like you're in the doctor's office and you're waiting for a for them to call you in. And then it's taking that time and deciding with the intention of like, what do I want to do during this time? Do I want to work on business? Do I want to work on personal? Do I want to do absolutely nothing? And once you have an idea of what you want to do at that time, having permission to yourself, like, this is what I'm going to do with this time. You know what? I'm sitting in the waiting room. I don't really feel like flipping magazines or watching what they have on the television. That doesn't appeal to me. So you know what? I'm just gonna start thinking about like what I want to talk about in my emails for the next month, and maybe I'll just like start like writing out ideas in my phone about it while I'm waiting for them to call me to my appointment, or I'm at the school drop pickup and I'm waiting for my kids to come in. So you know what? I'm going to spend time listening to something educational, like some like a podcast, like Kelly's podcast,
Mm.
and take it from there. That's considered my business educational time, Or like, you know what? I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be thinking about the kitchen remodel or just thinking about like what I'm going to buy for the holidays, Like that's going to be my what's my gift list for like December or so. Like so having like permission of what you're doing and then reframing it like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in, I'm going to think about like work my business, write something in my notes, and I'm going to need what I'm going to do is just do the strategy version of it. I'm okay with the mindset. I gave my permission. I feel good. I'm just going to go in and be like, all right, I'm going to talk about like how traditional time management is broken, or the way we think about time management needs to be different, or how to work through the hidden pockets of time that we have. And those are going to be my email ideas for the next month or so. And then I have it on my phone and I did something, like I chose that time to work with my schedule because mom life is different. Some days you have more time, some days you don't. But the times you do have, even though they're not the typical like 20 minutes to an hour, they may be five, they may be like 10, they may be like, like 8 minutes. But I'm going to use that time and work my business and see what I can do from there. And just from there, like the small pockets of time that you work through add up for the long run. Like you'll be surprised in a month how much that little time adds up. It's like when you start exercising and you do like a little bit, you're walking and then you're getting faster and then you're running and then you're preparing. And before you know it, you may want to run a marathon. And all that came from you just starting and doing a little bit at a time, little bit, little bit, little bit.
Oh yeah, that's exactly how I teach visibility too. It's like under 10 minutes a day, right? Really,
Mm.
you can fit something in those little pieces. But as you're talking, I feel like I want to ask like a really logistics question. Do you, and I guess it depends on everybody's brain, because I'm feeling like what I'm hearing you say is have kind of a go-to list that you always could refer back to be like, what do I want to do right now? Versus that decision making of like, what is it? What should I do right now? You're already at the place where you're asking yourself, what of the things I've already kind of determined in terms of my priorities, and you've listed that those could be business things, those could be personal things, those could be like, you know, thinking about your holiday gifts or, grocery shopping online, whatever it is. It could be any of those things, but you kind of don't get stuck in this, I don't know what to do, so I'm bored, so I'm scrolling social media.
Right. Yes, yes. And you could even do like, if you don't have a to-do list or if you don't even know where to start, even just doing like a to-do list in like the waiting room or, wherever you have the small pockets of time, that's a start too. Because you could look at it and be like, all right, this I could need to do this week. This I don't need to do now. So scratch that. And kind of just like whittle it down, be like, in those 8 minutes, you figured out what's your priority for like the week or whatever time period that you have.
Okay, amazing. And I'm sure that you have some wonderful resources that help people with this. So if you want to share about anything, whether that's a download or your website or a video that you made or anything like that, please let people know what that's all about.
Yes. So I have a resource called Get Back on Track with Your Business Goals, and it's a private podcast. So if you have any point in your business where you're having trouble getting back into your business goals, you definitely want to check out the mini audio training that I have for you guys. So normally it's on my website for $47, but because like you guys are amazing and Kelly is amazing and that I love being on this podcast, I wanted to give it to you guys for free. So it's basically a three-part mini audio training, which you can listen via private podcast, and it'll help you refocus and prioritize what matters most, even when feeling overwhelmed and behind in business. It'll help you shake off the self-doubt so you learn practical ways to feel more certain about your business choices, find your focus, and quiet the noise so you could filter out distractions and zero in what truly matters. So it's a mix of like mindset strategies and implementation strategies.
Mm.
So you could basically listen to it while you're folding laundry or going for a walk and take it from there. And the link will be in the show notes. And feel free to sign up. And if you have any questions, you can email me at celia@mindsetcoachmd.com.
Oh my gosh, I love a private podcast. It's the best.
Yes.
Clearly my favorite way of learning. This is why I'm a podcast host. So thank you for that. And I'm very excited for our listeners to grab that, to stay connected with you, and to learn more about different strategies for time management. And honestly, I think that's just like the overall arching pathway into the mindset that allows us to give permission to like not go crazy.
Yes.
Permit.
And
There you go. I just gave you a new tagline: permission to not drive yourself crazy.
I'll take it. I love that.
That's what we all need because note to self, I'm the one driving myself crazy. There's nobody else in the driver's seat. It's just me, right?
Right. And note to self, I do the same. So you're
Oh,
not alone.
oh my gosh. I know I feel like so seen on this episode. And I'm sure our listeners will too. So I'm very thankful for you to come today and to share your knowledge and your beautiful like tone that was so soothing just to have this conversation, to be honest. And anywhere any last words of wisdom, anything else you want to wrap up with, and remind people where they can connect with you as well.
I just want to say, like, I know you're doing a lot, and I just want to say you're enough, mom, business owner. Like, you are doing as much as you can in the time period that you are, and that's enough. And if you have any questions, email me at Celia at Mindset Coach MD, and I'll love to answer them.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, everyone. We will be back next week.